Okay, proper plant selection. Match the plant to the site conditions. Okay, plants placed in the correct location will usually thrive without a lot of help from you. Plants have been growing along forever without our help. They have their own defenses, and when things are going well, they can pretty much fend off a lot of the stuff that might try and attack them. But if they're in an unsuitable location, they're going to be vulnerable because they're stressed. Okay, and they're going to be the ones that require more care. Now you can have native and non-native. I know there's a big native push around, and that's fine. But people have this thing in their head, oh, I'll just plant a native and I can just forget everything because it's native, so it's obviously going to be fine. Well, no, there are native to bogs. They're not going to do good in a dry situation. There are drought-tolerant, sun-loving natives, and they're not going to do good in, dappled shade, heavy soil. So no, you want to match the plant to the site condition. That's the most critical thing. So it can be native or non-native, but you just want to be intelligent about picking the right plant. Okay, so somebody at the break in this morning was asking about, are you going to talk about azaleas and lace bugs? And I said, of course. We plant azaleas around here. Everybody loves azaleas. Okay, azaleas are indigenous to moist, well-drained soils, not heavy clay, moisture-holding, soggy all-winter soils. Okay, they are an understory type plant. And where do we put them? Out in the blazing sun, around our foundation. They like a soil pH of like 5, maybe 5.5, very acid. We put them out with the high pH soil in the sun, and they're stressed. They're stressed all the time, and so they get lace bugs. If they were in that dappled shade, area, very happy, the lace bug populations would be less. There'd be beneficials there that could, take care of some of that problem, and so they'd be great. A lot of times you'll see them and they're yellow or they're brown or funny colors. They're trying to get nutrients out of the higher or lower pH soils. It's just not making them happy. They're a very hard plant to grow successfully unless you do your homework, you prepare the site properly, and then and put it in the correct location. Same thing with the Alberta spruces. I heard somebody talking about that. Okay, dwarf Alberta spruce, okay? Not Washington, D.C. spruce, Alberta, like Canada, like north, like cool, okay? Is it cool here in August? No. Is that spruce happy here? No. So it's under stress. And then we put it by the driveway or some other constructed surface where all the heat's just, up on that thing. So what does it get? It gets spider mites. It gets spruce spider mites. Those are cool season mites. So it gets them not only in the spring, then they go sort of dormant or stasis in the summer, and then they come back and get it again in the fall. It's another one of those plants, you might have a good situation if you're up county, but there are other things out there that are a little better suited to our area that you could choose rather than the plant that wants to be further north. And I always put this in because I cannot, for the life of me, resist Cherry Bells campanula. No garden center seductions. Every time I buy this plant and put it in my yard, it never lasts more than like 3 months. And yet, this spring I'm going to be walking around Stadler's and it's just going to be like, Cherry Bells, Try to control yourself and at least, research that plant before you bring it home. Is it really something that you'll be able to grow? This is on your handout. This is just a real first brush at all the tolerant plants there are out there in the universe, okay? That would be great for our area. For example, you want something drought tolerant? We have smoke bush, we have mahonias, we have glossolabilia, we have that false holly that Eric talked about, we have hellebores. Okay, you have a wet spot? Well, we've got red twig dogwoods, we've got winterberry holly, we have Virginia sweet spire, we have summer sweet, just to name a few. You have shade. We've got beauty berries, and boy, are they pretty. We've got Carolina allspice, oak leaf hydrangea, yellow jessamine vine. You're in an urban situation where you've got really compacted soils or you've got like overhead wires. There's something that's going to be there for you. We've got honey locusts, we've got zelkovas, hedge maples, crepe myrtles, willow oaks, swamp white oaks. We've got stuff out there for you. There's plenty out there to choose from. So let's look at a couple. Okay, drought tolerant. Mahonias are wonderful. It's Oregon grape holly. There's two kinds out there that are readily available. One's a native evergreen shrub. Okay, it's got beautiful flowers. Last year, when we didn't have quite the cold winter, mine started blooming around January. This year, they still aren't blooming yet. But they have extremely fragrant flowers. They're great for early season nectar for honeybees. Pretty much it's the only thing that's blooming on those warm, 60-degree days in wintertime when the bees might be out. And so it's nice for those pollinators. And then it's got beautiful blueberries. Birds love this plant. The only thing about the native is it tends to get winter burn in our winters that have those fluctuating temperatures that we always have with the wind. It might get some winter burn and look kind of rough by the end of the winter, but it comes right back. You don't have to worry. It's very tolerant of it. It just might look a little ratty. The leatherleaf mahonia, this one is a little more structural, and it's a little more rugged in that regard. It doesn't quite get the winter burn that the native one does. But both of them are really good plants. They do well in sun. They do well in shade. They're very tolerant of a wide range of soils, so it's a good plant to know. The abelia was another one I mentioned. This is glossy abelia. It's a semi-evergreen. You can get all kinds of cultivars now, so some of them are even smaller than 3 feet. Although I have heard if they're super happy, they may grow a little more than they're supposed to, even though they're supposed to be dwarf. But you can get them smaller than 6 feet tall. They're good in full sun to half shade. They do prefer acid, well-drained soils, but they do very well in less than ideal soils. And they do tolerate a lot of drought. They're very tough. You can prune them, like Eric was saying. And they're also good for late season nectar sources for your pollinators, for hummingbirds, and for monarch butterflies. So that's a plus too. Okay, if you have a wet area, these dogwoods, unlike the flowering dogwood trees that we have, these are the twigged dogwoods. These are shrubs. There's two kinds that are readily available, the Cornus alba and the Cornus sericea. This one's a native. You can get them red-twigged dogwoods, orange-twigged, red-twigged dogwoods, yellow-twigged. They're really cool. Beautiful in the wintertime. They get a cluster of flowers in the spring that you don't really notice, but they have beautiful white berries in the fall. You can get variegated ones that are lovely. And again, they do well in sun or shade. They're pretty good about droughts too, in addition to wet soils where they're indigenous to. And they're prone to a stem canker, but it's not life-threatening. They might get some discoloration, but you would just prune that out. And really, the older canes you're going to want to prune out of these anyway, because as the canes get older and woodier, they lose their really bright colors. So you're wanting to prune out the oldest ones anyhow. So anytime you're in there pruning, if you saw a discolorated stem, you would just prune that out. It's not a big deal.